Let me ask a quick question. How many of you looked at your phone in the last hour before going to bed last night? This perfectly illustrates the challenge we're going to talk about today. Our brains evolved to respond to daylight and darkness, not emails, Netflix autoplay, and late night scrolling. Modern life has quietly changed our sleeping habits in ways that our biology has not caught up with. So today I'm going to explain why sleep matters far more than most people realise, and how small changes can make a surprisingly big difference. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sam Robson, Medical Director of Temple Clinic. My work focuses on lifestyle medicine, weight management, hormone health, and long-term well-being. And one of the most overlooked drivers of health across all of these areas is sleep. So today I'm going to spend about 15 minutes explaining why sleep matters far more than most people realise, particularly if you are working from home, and I will share some simple, evidence-based ways to improve it. We live in a culture that quietly glorifies exhaustion. Being busy is often seen as a badge of honour. Long hours, late nights, constant connectivity. Remote working has changed things further. Many people now work in the same environment where they sleep. This means the boundaries between work and rest become blurred. Emails arrive late, screens stay on longer, and routines become irregular. Many people find themselves going to bed later than they intended. The problem is that while modern life has changed dramatically, our biology hasn't. Our brains and bodies still rely on sleep as one of the most important mechanisms for maintaining health. Most adults need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. But it's not just the number of hours that matters. The body works in sleep cycles that last about 90 minutes. And within those cycles we move through different stages, including deep sleep and REM sleep. Deep sleep is where physical repair occurs. REM sleep is where emotional processing and memory consolidation takes place. So what really matters is not only how long we sleep, but also how consistently and how well we sleep. One of the most important systems controlling sleep is something called the circadian rhythm. This is essentially the body's internal clock, which runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle. It regulates sleep and wakefulness, hormone release, body temperature, metabolism, and energy levels. The single most powerful signal that resets this clock is light. Morning light tells the brain it's time to wake up and be alert, but darkness in the evening allows melatonin, the sleep hormone, to rise. The challenge today is that many people spend most of the day indoors under artificial lighting and then expose themselves to bright screens late in the evening. That confuses the body clock and makes sleep much harder. Many people think of sleep as downtime, when the body simply switches off, but in reality the opposite is true. Sleep is when the body carries out essential maintenance and repair. The immune system strengthens, hormones regulating appetite and stress are reset, tissues repair, and fascinatingly, the brain activates a system called the glymphatic system, which effectively acts like a cleaning crew. It flushes metabolic waste products out of the brain. So while we're asleep, the brain is actually extremely busy maintaining itself. Because sleep affects so many biological systems, chronic sleep deprivation is associated with a wide range of health problems. These include heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression, and impaired immune function. Sleep is often treated as optional, something we sacrifice when life becomes busy. But biologically, it sits along nutrition and exercise as one of the core pillars of health. Sleep also has a major impact on how the brain functions on a day-to-day basis. Research shows that when we are sleep deprived, the emotional centre of the brain, the amygdala, becomes significantly more reactive. In practical terms, that means we become more irritable, less resilient to stress, and less able to regulate our emotions. At the same time, concentration, decision-making, and creativity decline. So good sleep is not just about health, it's also a performance strategy. Sleep also has a surprisingly strong effect on appetite and metabolism, and when we don't sleep enough, the balance of two important hormones changes. Ghrelin, the hormone that stimulates hunger, increases, and leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, decreases. At the same time, levels of the stress hormone cortisol rise. The result is that when we are tired, we tend to feel hungrier, crave high-calorie foods, and have less motivation to exercise. This is the reason that sleep is such an important factor in weight management. Working from home has introduced some new challenges for sleep. Many people find themselves checking emails late in the evening, working longer hours, or losing the natural structure that commuting once created. Another subtle issue is daylight exposure. When people work indoors all day, the brain may not receive the strong morning light signal that helps to regulate circadian rhythm. All of this can quietly push sleep later and later. The key to protecting sleep in a remote working world is routine and boundaries. The good news is that the most effective strategies for improving sleep are behavioural and free. First of all, try to keep a consistent sleep and wake time, even on the weekend. Secondly, get natural light exposure within an hour of waking. Thirdly, reduce screen exposure in the hour or two before bed. Fourth, keep the bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Fifth, move your body during the day. Regular physical activity improves sleep quality significantly. These habits are far more powerful than most sleep gadgets or supplements. And the final factor that's worth mentioning is alcohol. A lot of people feel that a glass of wine in the evening helps them sleep. And in a way it does. Alcohol can make you feel sleepy initially, but physiologically, it actually disrupts sleep quality. It suppresses REM sleep, which is a stage associated with emotional processing and memory consolidation, and as alcohol is metabolized during the night, it tends to fragment sleep. So people often fall asleep quickly, but wake more frequently and feel less refreshed the next day. In other words, alcohol may help with sleep onset, but it tends to worsen sleep quality. One useful way to think about sleep is that it begins long before you get into bed. What you do in the 2 or 3 hours before bedtime strongly influences how easily you fall asleep. A typical healthy routine might look like this: dinner in the early evening, dimming lights later on, reducing screen exposure around 9 o'clock, and then a short wind-down routine. Perhaps reading, stretching, or relaxation before bed around 10 or 10:30. In other words, you prepare the brain for sleep rather than expecting it to switch off instantly. One of the most common problems people report is that their mind won't switch off at night. A simple technique that can sometimes help this is something called cognitive shuffling. You take a neutral word, for example, bedtime, and then think of random images beginning with each letter. So B might be bear, balloon, or bicycle. E might be elephant or envelope. The key is that the images are random and are not connected. This gentle mental distraction can stop the brain from looping through worries and help it drift into sleep. If there is one message to take away from today, it's that sleep is not wasted time. It's when the brain repairs, resets, and prepares you for the next day. Good sleep supports better mood, better energy, improved metabolic health, and stronger cognitive function. So if you want to improve health, productivity, and resilience, sleep is one of the most powerful tools available. At Temple Clinic, much of our work focuses on helping people rebuild these foundations of health. That includes sleep, nutrition, hormone balance, stress management, and long-term metabolic health. Because in reality, lasting well-being rarely comes from a single intervention. It comes from improving the systems that support health day after day. Thank you very much for listening.